Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to a new live chat. Today, you can talk to me in English. I will use on English, but I will try to talk very, very slowly in order for all of you to be able to understand me. And I can talk about whatever I want today. So, for example, first of all, I will talk about weather because, as I have already said, I don't like it when it is too hot. And today it's very, very hot. Yes. So, if we want to ask a question about the weather, we can ask, what's the weather like? Ili, what is the weather like? What is the weather like? Is it sunny and warm? Is it cloudy and rainy? Is it cold and snowy? So we can have different kinds of weather. But today, since it's August, it is sunny and it's very, very hot. Yes. But anyway, I will talk to you and I will try to teach you some of the English. You can just listen to me or you can write comments and ask me anything, and I will gladly answer your questions. Okay, so first of all, I found some of my books and I wanted to recommend them to you. So these are books for learning languages. So if you want to read something in English and you are not like perfect at English, you are just a learner, you're starting, then I recommend that you read some adapted books. So these are not real books, these are adapted books. And for example, here you can find the level of the book. So for example, this is elementary book. But even though it's elementary, it doesn't mean that it's very, very easy. You will be surprised. You know, when you say elementary level, and then you just think probably that you will read about, I don't know, how to say how old you are, what your name is, etc. But no, in this elementary, because they have, before elementary, they have starter and beginner. So these two levels are even easier. And this elementary level is a very, very, let's see, nice level for all of you who maybe learned English in primary school, in secondary school, and then you don't feel free to talk in English. You're not self-confident when it comes to English. You need a push. So these kind of books, I think, can help you because you can read something that you can understand. Maybe not 100%, but you can understand, for example, 80% of the book, which is important. And then my advice is not just to read that book once, to finish with it, and then to go and buy another one, but to use one of these books, whichever you choose, to use it whenever you want. You go to sleep, and before you go to sleep, you want to read something, but to read something that can help you to improve your English, then you take the same book. So you spend in this book, for example, 3-5 months, as long as it takes for you to learn it almost by heart. So to know the phrases, to know the words that they are using, to know how to retell the story completely. To be sure when you talk about this book, to be sure which words to use and how to use tenses and etc. So as I said, it's elementary, but in this book you can find present simple and present continuous and present perfect tense and past simple and past continuous tense, and future tense. So all the tenses that you actually need. Maybe there are not so many conditional sentences and they are not just like these difficult, complicated words, but you don't need them, you will need them later. And now if you're beginners, the thing that you need is to be able to talk about something in English and to be precise about, describing things or talking about yourself, to be precise, not to make too many mistakes. You can always make a mistake, and it's completely normal, but not to make too many, not to mix does with do or does with is. You know what happens? The main problem is, for example, with the beginners, they want to say, do you hungry? I ask them to ask me whether I need to eat or not. So they need to ask me, are you hungry? But they actually confuse it with the other kinds of sentences, of questions in present simple tense, and they start it with do. So if you want to ask me about the place where I live, you can ask me, where do you live? Or do you live here? Or do you read books? Or do you usually sit on this beautiful purple chair, armchair, actually? So do you sit? Do you eat? Do you have a lot of friends? Do you have children, etc.? But if you want to ask me something like, if I want to eat something, whether I'm hungry or not, then you have to use the verb to be. So are you hungry? Are you tired? And usually when I have a student and I want to teach my student the difference, that is when to use do you and when to use are you, I usually put three things beside are you, and that's an adjective. So are you tired is an adjective. Are you hungry? Are you excited? Are you, what can you be? Are you thirsty? Are you sad? Are you happy? So with all the adjectives, you use are you. Okay. That's number one. Number two is when you want to know where I am. So you want to ask me whether I'm at school or at home or in the garden or in the shop. So the place where I am, you always, again, use are you. And then you say, are you at home right now? Or are you in, I don't know, in the shop or in the park? Are you in the cinema? Are you alone? We go back to the adjectives. So are you alone? Are you in the cinema? So adjectives, places, remember, memorize, you always use are you with those two things. And there is a third thing, if you want to ask me or somebody else about their profession, then you will ask me, are you a teacher? Are you a doctor? Are you a nurse? Or are you a painter? Are you an actress? Etc. So, are you, three times are you plus adjective. Are you happy now? Are you thirsty now? Are you excited now because you're live on this live stream? Are you tired? Are you hot now? Because I am. I'm really hot. Are you hot now? So are you plus adjective. Then about the place where a person can be. Are you at home right now? Are you at work right now? Are you in the park relaxing? Are you in a disco dancing? Are you in a restaurant eating something? So adjective, place, and the third is, do you remember what it is? It's a profession. So are you a teacher? Are you a mechanic? Are you a shop assistant? Are you a postman? Yes, there are a lot of professions. Are you a scientist? Etc. Okay, so when you put these three things on the right side, yes, right side, adjective, place where a person can be, or his profession, whatever you ask extra will be with do. Of course, we are talking about present simple now. Okay, so compare these two sentences. Do you eat? Do you want to eat, actually? Do you want to eat? Are you hungry? Hungry is on the right side. Hungry is an adjective. Are you hungry? But here I have a verb to want something. Do you want to eat? Do you eat apples every day? Do you teach English? Are you a teacher? Do you teach English? Can you hear the difference? So are you, profession, are you a teacher? Are you at school now? Are you a teacher? But do you teach English? So whenever you hear a verb, action, teach, eat, whatever, sit, sleep, look, sing, dance, everything is with do or does. When do we use does? When we talk about he or she, Marco or Maria, he or she. Does she dance in a disco? Does she study English? But is she a student? Does she study? Is she a student? Student, profession. Verb to be, is she? Does she study? Study, action, a verb, and then we use do or does. So the thing is that you just need to practice these things if they are not clear to you by now. I mean, if it's clear, okay, you can move on. But in my experience, I saw a lot of people who can use English, who can actually speak in English, who are actually fluent in English. And when they start talking, I think, wow, why did you come to me? I mean, you can use English very well. You don't make so many mistakes. But then we come to these little easy, basic things, and then I noticed that they make these kind of mistakes. And it sounds very bad, you know, when somebody asks you, do you hungry? You know, or do you sad right now? Of course. So now we learned that sad is an adjective, and then with sad, with adjectives, we use the verb to be. Hello, hello. So is this chat live? Yes, it is. So you see, is this a recording? No, it's not. A good question. So because we have the chat is live. Live is an adjective, and then we use is. I wouldn't lie to you. Why should I do that? Hello, Maya. You see, Maya can tell you that it's live. Okay, so is it live? Is it live? We use the verb to be. Is it? Is it live? For example, you can ask me, do you record this always? Do you make this alive? There is a mosquito in the room. Okay, so do you make these videos every day, and is this video live? So that's the difference between do and does and is and are. Okay, I hope that all of you who listen to me now know what I was talking about. And now I will go back to this book, not to this one, but to any of the books that can help you to learn English. So these are called adapted books. And then you see, it's a book about the picture of Dorian Gray, but you can see that it is a very thin book. Okay, and in this book, you can find only things related to elementary level. Of course, you can choose to buy a book for pre-intermediate, intermediate, or upper level. And then, of course, in this intermediate, upper level, you will find on, I mean, maybe you will come across more unknown verbs. And that would be maybe difficult for you, but I think that at the end of every book, there is an explanation for all the verbs. I'm not sure. Anyway, I will try to read something for you from the book, and then you will see what I was talking about and how easy it is when it is elementary. So, for example, chapter 2. The young man was sitting at the piano when Basil and Harry came into the studio. He was turned away from them, looking at a book of music. But he heard Basil's footsteps, and Dorian spoke immediately. Okay, it's a short passage, so The young man was sitting at the piano when Basil and Harry came into the studio. For example, if you really, really want to study English, this sentence can be perfect for you to learn the difference between past simple and past continuous tense. So you see, in the first part, you have past continuous tense when it says the young man was sitting. He was sitting. It's continuous whenever you hear this ing ending, sitting, he was sitting, it's past continuous. And he was sitting at the piano. Maybe he wasn't playing the piano, maybe he was just sitting at the piano when some people came into the studio. So came is past simple. It's a past form of the verb come. Come, came. So he was sitting when somebody came into the room. And here, this is a basic rule for explaining when teachers want to explain to their students when to use he was sitting and when to use he sat, or he was coming, he came. So these are both past forms of the verb, but was sitting is past continuous, ing, to be plus ing, and came is past simple tense. So we want to describe something. When we want to describe something, what was the person doing maybe before we came, and maybe that person continued doing the same thing after we came into the room. So we want to describe the action, the scene. We use past continuous tense. So when I entered, when I came, he was sitting at the piano. He was playing the piano. He was reading a book. He was maybe sleeping. He was maybe having lunch. So I describe what was going on when I came. So I came into the room. I entered the room. I use past simple tense to describe that action. It's a short action. But then I describe what I saw when I entered the room. And for that description, I use past continuous tense. So imagine that now somebody opens the door and enters the room, and then that person would say probably, I entered the room and I saw Yana sitting on a purple chair talking to herself. Yes. So he saw me sitting on a chair. He saw me I was holding a book. I was sitting on a chair. I was wearing a white t-shirt and I was wearing glasses and I was talking to myself, for example. So that would be, the simplest explanation for past continuous tense, when to use it. So the young man was sitting at the piano when they came into the studio. So we were just describing what the young man was doing. He was sitting at the piano. And he was turned away from them. So they entered the room. He was sitting at the piano. He was turned away from them. So he wasn't looking at them. He was turned away. And he was looking at a book of music. So again, what was he doing when you came? He was sitting at the piano and he was looking at the book of music. You know, the book of music, when they tell you how to play a song, a poem, whatever you play on the piano. Okay, so he was looking at the book of music. But then that person heard steps. So I was sitting at the computer, I was doing something, and then the door opened, I heard steps, and what did I do? I turned to see who is coming. So he heard footsteps, and he spoke immediately. So he started saying some things. He started uttering something immediately when they entered the room. So he was sitting. He was looking at sitting at the piano, looking at the book of music, but he heard footsteps and then he spoke immediately. And let's see what he said. He said, "Oh, do you have to work today? I don't want you to paint me today. I don't want a life-size portrait of myself." So as you can see, the person who entered the room was a painter. What was he? He was a painter. Remember, when we use professions, we use the verb to be. So, was he a painter? He was a painter. Did he paint? Yes, he painted something. I don't know. He painted paintings, but was he a painter? Yes, he was a painter. And what did Dorian say? He said, do you have to work today? Do you have to work today? I can ask you, all of you here, do you have to work today? Have to. So pay attention to this word have. Have, it means to possess something. I have a book right now in my hands, but have to, I have to, it means I must. I'm obliged to do it. I have to work. So do you have to work? Do you have to work today? I don't want you to paint me today. So as you can see, this Dorian person was a model. So this Basil was a painter and he painted him. But Dorian was not in the mood that day. He wasn't in the mood. He was not in a good mood. He didn't want to work. Yes, I must work because I must eat. We all have to work because we all have to eat. But you see, I have to stop right now because I have to correct this sentence of Epsi Sigma because he said I don't go hungry. So I'm not hungry. I'm not hungry, or I don't want to become hungry. I don't want to be hungry. So with hungry, we have to use the verb to be. Anyway, Dorian was not in a good mood. Maybe he was hot. And he said, do you have to work today? I don't want you to paint me today, and I don't want a life-size portrait of myself. So. And then he turned and he saw Harry. You see, for all of you who are beginners, these kind of sentences are perfect. I have to study for exam, okay. And he turned and he saw Harry. And of course, you have to ask, what did he do? He turned. Who did he see? He saw Harry. Harry was his friend or whatever. So this Basil was a painter, but Harry was not a painter. So we use verb to be when we talk about professions, but now we use it in past tense. So Basil was a painter. Harry was not a painter. He was Dorian's friend. So Dorian turned and saw somebody. Who did he see? Who did he see? He saw Harry. And he immediately stopped speaking. He stopped speaking. This verb stop can make confusion. So when you want to say that you decided not to carry on, not to go on with an activity, then you just say stop, and then you use the verb behind with ing ending. So stop talking, stop smiling, stop whining, and stop speaking. He stopped speaking. So he was speaking, and then in one moment, he just stopped speaking. So he didn't continue speaking. He didn't go on, carry on. He just stopped speaking. So why did he stop speaking? What do you think? Why did he stop speaking? Because he saw Henry. He saw Henry and he stopped speaking. Did he continue talking about things? Did he continue speaking? No, he didn't continue. He didn't continue speaking. He stopped speaking because he saw Henry. And his face became red. So his face became red. So we don't know the reason, but at that moment, he felt embarrassed. He was embarrassed. When you are embarrassed, when something embarrassing happens, your face becomes red. Yes. Yes. My face became red because she slapped me. You can also become red in your face when somebody slaps you. But here, nobody slapped anybody. There was just this feeling of embarrassment in the air. And when you're not very comfortable, when you're embarrassed, you sometimes become red in your face. And then something even worse can happen. Somebody can ask you, why have you become so red in your face? And then you can become even redder. So it can be even worse. So if you notice that somebody became red in their face, just don't pay attention to it. Just ignore the fact that the person became red, and then that person will cool down and everything will come back to normal. So it happened to me when I was younger, especially I think in primary school, maybe even in high school. Sometimes I became red in my face, and then that can be even more embarrassing. So, okay. Sanya, I will answer your question as soon as I finish with English thing. I cannot go to. Yes, I can help you, of course. I will make a German live as soon as I finish this one, and I will finish this English one in 4 minutes. You will just have to switch to my other channel, and then I will help you. Okay. So he became red. He became red in his face, and he said, "Oh, I didn't know you had a visitor. I didn't know you had a visitor." This is a very interesting one because, of course, I don't want to use my mother tongue to explain anything to you, but just pay attention to this had. I didn't know that you had a visitor. Usually, we will use in our language, we will use the verb have in present tense. So I didn't know that you have. But as soon as you start an English sentence using past tense, the best thing for you is to continue with all the words that you have in the rest of the sentence, put them all in past tense. So that's the best thing. So I didn't know that you were here. I didn't know that you had brown hair. I didn't know that you, whatever. I didn't know that you something in past simple tense. Okay, so I didn't know that you had a visitor. So he was not aware of another person in the room. So he was just sitting at the piano. He was just reading, what was the name of that notebook? A book of music. And then this painter came in, but he came in with a friend. And Dorian was not aware. He didn't know that he came with a friend. He didn't know that they had a visitor. So he just talking like to Basil, he said, "Oh, do we have to work now? I don't want you to make a portrait of me, etc." But then he turned and he saw Harry. And immediately he became red in his face and he was embarrassed, probably. We don't know why. He didn't feel comfortable anymore. And then he said, "Oh, I didn't know you had a visitor." And then the painter, he decided to introduce Dorian to the visitor. And he said, "Dorian, this is Lord Henry, a good friend of mine. We went to university together. I have told him that you like my painting of you, and now he won't believe me." So when you want to introduce somebody to somebody else, so you just first say his name. For example, Sanya, this is my friend Maya, and or Sanya, this is Maya, a good friend of mine. So you can even say my good friend or a good friend of mine. And then you can add something like, we went to university together, or we used to go out together, or we went to high school together. And I have told him that you like my painting of you. So this Basil, he's a painter, and he paints a life-size portrait of Dorian. So he has told that. He has told Henry that, but this Henry, who is a lord, he is obviously some important VIP person, very important person. He says he won't believe me. He doesn't want to believe me. He doesn't believe me that I'm making a portrait of you. Nonsense, said Harry. It's a nice word. Nonsense. Don't talk nonsense. Nonsense, it means like something that has no sense, something stupid, nonsense. But you should avoid to say, well, it's stupid. You can just say, well, it's nonsense. It's nonsense. When you don't agree with somebody or with something that somebody is saying, you just say, nonsense. I'm very pleased to meet you. And they shook hands. So, of course, you know, and you have heard this phrase a million times. I am pleased to meet you. So when you say it sometimes, you don't even know what you're saying. You're just pronouncing like, pleased to meet you. So actually, what you're saying, I am pleased to meet you. You can use this I am pleased in some other contexts. For example, you can say, I am pleased that you are here, or I am pleased that you have come. I am pleased that the weather is so nice today. So I am pleased, it means I like the fact that something is going on. I'm delighted with that. I'm pleased that something is happening. So here we just say, I am pleased to meet you. So I'm pleased. And they shook hands. And here we will shake hands because this is the end of the live stream. So we have this shake. So when you shake hands with somebody, it means you give hands to each other, then you shake hands. You can also shake your head. If you want to ask me something and then my answer is no, but I don't want to say no, I can just shake my hand like this. And if my answer is yes, I will nod. Nod is this. When you nod, you say yes. When you shake your head, you say no. So here we have Maya's question. Are you going to learn? Are you going to teach us tomorrow? So I'm teaching, you are learning. These are two different words. So are you going to teach us tomorrow? And then I can nod. So I can say yes. So see you tomorrow at the same time or a similar time. We will see. Thanks to all of you who have been here, who have been listening to me, and see you soon. Goodbye.